had a seizure on the plane. The first seizure I had, my homie walked up to me and said, "Let's get off the plane, man. They say you had a seizure." I say, "Man, stop lying."
Rick Ross built an empire worth millions, but behind the Maybachs and mega mansions his body was quietly breaking down. Seizures, drive-by shootings on his birthday, enemies digging up and blasting his deepest secrets. The biggest boss came dangerously close to losing everything, including his life. So what saved him? The answer isn't what you'd expect. Here's how it really went down. The boss who nearly flatlined. Real talk. When you hear the name Rick Ross, what pops in your head? You're thinking the biggest boss, right? Maybach music. That non-stop luxury, that over-the-top opulence most people only see on Instagram. But beneath the champagne showers and caviar dreams, there's a story that hits way different. A story about a man who stared death in the face more than once, and somehow lived to speak on it. No cap. William Leonard Roberts II was born January 28, 1976, in Clarksdale, Mississippi. But it was Carroll City, Florida, the trenches of South Florida that truly shaped the Rick Ross the world knows today. Coming up in those streets, young William had visions way bigger than his environment. You feel me? He was playing football at Albany State University, chasing a future beyond the block, and before he ever laid down a single professional verse, he was clocking a regular 90.05, a job that would later explode into one of the biggest controversies of his entire career. But hold that thought, fam. We'll circle back. By 2006, everything changed overnight. Ross dropped Hustling, and that record became an anthem for anybody trying to escape the mud. It perfectly bottled Miami street energy and instantly turned into a cultural moment. Suddenly, this larger-than-life dude with the booming voice was everywhere you looked. His debut album, Port of Miami, debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200, officially announcing to the game that a new Southern heavyweight had arrived. But here's what nobody really tells you about chasing success and going all in for greatness. Sometimes the same hunger that lifts you up is the same thing that slowly destroys you from the inside. Rick Ross wasn't just stacking millions, fam, behind the scenes. He was wearing his body down piece by piece. And the warning signs, they were showing up long before anyone wanted to admit what was really happening.
What's your, to date, what's your proudest business venture?
Well, you know, I love everything I do. I can't even front, you know what I'm saying? Everything, I put my heart into it all. But my latest business venture, my Jet Doc, which is a health app.
Peep game. What Ross is speaking on right there comes from a place of real pain. That deep, authentic hurt. The kind that forces you to sit back and question every move you've ever made in your life. On October 14, 2011, Rick Ross went through something that would forever change the course of his existence. While traveling, Ross suffered 2 seizures within a 6-hour window. The first one hit mid-flight on a plane headed from Fort Lauderdale to Memphis. Just picture this for a second, bro. One of the biggest names in the rap game laid out unconscious on a commercial flight. Flight attendants performing CPR as the plane makes an emergency landing. He was found completely unresponsive. They literally had to pull him back from the other side. And just when everyone thought the worst was behind him, just when it looked like Ross had bounced back, it happened again. A second seizure struck on another flight, forcing him into a hospital in Birmingham, Alabama. 2 seizures, 6 hours. One single day that easily could have been his last breath on this earth.
I had a seizure on the plane. The first seizure I had, my homie walked up to me and said, "Let's get off the plane, man. They say you had a seizure." I say, "Man, stop lying."
My guy didn't even realize what had happened. That's how disconnected Ross had become from his own body. Straight up, doctors initially brushed it off, saying the episodes were caused by exhaustion and a lack of rest. But later on, Ross would open up about a much darker reality. The seizures weren't just from being tired. They were made even worse by drug use.
And most definitely, that's what's really driving me. The fact that I've had a seizure and, you know, I woke up, you know, from being unconscious on the toilet before. And I've never even spoke on this, but I've suffered from seizures a long time. Like I said, I've deprived myself of rest, no sleep, maybe 2 to 3 hours on a good night. You know, staying up, chasing my dreams. I always thought I had the best excuses, but don't nothing come before life in itself.
2 to 3 hours of sleep on a good night. Let that sink in for a second, fam. While Ross was out here building Maybach Music Group, putting artists like Meek Mill and Whale on the map, dropping project after project, he was completely running on fumes. He was sipping lean codeine syrup mixed with other substances, telling himself it was just part of the grind. Part of chasing that bag. In his 2019 memoir, Hurricanes, Ross finally got honest about his long-term codeine abuse. He admitted he was using it to cope with the non-stop pressure of his career, the industry beefs, the stress, all of it. Mix that with alcohol, other substances, and chronic sleep deprivation, and it created a deadly cocktail his body simply couldn't handle anymore. but 2011, that was only the warning shot. You feel me? The real wake-up call came 7 years later, and this time, it almost took him out for good. On March 2nd, 2018, around 3:34 in the morning, Rick Ross was found unresponsive inside his Miami home. The 911 call painted a straight-up terrifying scene. The caller said he was breathing heavily, foaming at the mouth, and may have lost control of his bodily functions. When paramedics arrived, Ross became combative, and police had to step in just to get him transported to the hospital. Early reports tried to label it pneumonia, but as more details surfaced, it became clear the situation was way more serious. Reports pointed to a possible heart attack, with Ross being placed on ECMO, extracorporeal membrane oxygenation. That's life support, the kind used when your heart and lungs are failing.
When we got that call that morning, we were given misinformation. They was actually doing CPR at the time, and they had turned the airplane around in Atlanta. That was the wrong information that we got initially, and it was devastating. Because when you hear CPR, you know you're losing the person.
Bro, Rick Ross deadass thought he was finished. He woke up after a seizure, saw police officers standing over him with their straps out, and genuinely believed the ops had finally caught up to him, like he was already in the afterlife. That's the mental and physical state he was in, completely gone. So detached from reality that being dead actually felt like the most logical explanation for what he was experiencing. And if you think the health scares stopped there, you bugging. In his upcoming 2026 memoir, The Renaissance of a Boss, Notes from a Creative Reawakening, Ross opens up about a more recent seizure that happened in 2022. This one was triggered by eating psychedelic mushrooms. The incident caused yet another emergency landing, and Ross calls it one of the scariest moments of his life, tying it directly to the long-term damage from his past health issues. He said he was roaming through Mushroomland like a Super Mario character when the seizure hit, admitting he was nowhere near physically or mentally grounded during that chapter of his life. But the tragic side of Rick Ross' story isn't just about near-death health scares. It's about a man who built everything and almost lost it all because he refused to slow down, and the health issues were only part of it. Because while Ross was fighting his own body, the outside world was coming for him too, and they weren't playing fair, ops, choppers, snake behavior. If Ross' medical problems weren't enough, the universe had more in store. Beyond the seizures and hospital beds, he found himself in the crosshairs of real-world violence and some of hip-hop's nastiest beefs. On January 28, 2013, his 37th birthday, Rick Ross was targeted in a drive-by shooting in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. That really sink in. My guy was celebrating another year of life when somebody tried to take it from him. Shots rang out from another vehicle, and Ross, running purely on survival instincts, hit the gas in his Rolls. In the chaos, he crashed into an apartment building. Miraculously, neither Ross nor the woman with him were physically injured, but mentally, having hollow tips aimed at you on your birthday is a different kind of trauma that sticks with you. The shooting came after online death threats from the gangster disciples, who accused Ross of disrespecting their symbols and demanded money. Ross saw it as extortion and wasn't about to fold. After that, he hired round-the-clock security. The message was loud and clear that boss lifestyle came with a permanent target on your back. All of this violence, mixed with non-stop industry beefs, stacked even more stress onto an already fragile situation. It became a vicious cycle. You feel me? Stress led to more substance use. Substance use led to deeper health problems. And those health issues made him even more vulnerable. Over and over again. Then speaking of beefs, we gotta talk about the war that defined an entire decade of hip-hop. No cap.
Ross and 50, right? Ross is not, they got a beef because 50 didn't say what up to him. That's just a New York thing.
Right.
At one of the awards. I wasn't there, but that's how it sparked.
Right.
Nigga ain't say what's up to me. Cause down south, y'all have more of a...
Yeah, hey, how you doing?
That's Tony Yayo breaking down how the Rick Ross and 50 Cent beef started. All it took was a perceived disrespectful look at the 2008 BET Awards and boom, one of hip-hop's longest-running rivalries was born. Still going strong over 15 years later, by January 2009, Ross responded with mafia music, putting 50 Cent on blast over his child support drama and a house fire involving his baby mama. 50 came back with full nuclear energy, dropping Officer Ricky. Go ahead, try me. That track did something that haunted Ross for years. It exposed his past as a correctional officer. Before he became the biggest boss, William Roberts was working as a corrections officer from 1995 to 1997, and in a culture where street cred rules above almost everything else, that revelation hit hard, straight up. But 50 didn't stop there. He rolled out a whole series of Officer Ricky cartoons, turning Ross into a public joke. Then came some of the nastiest moves in hip-hop history. 50 interviewed Tia Kemp, one of Ross' baby mamas, putting Ross on blast on camera. Then, in a move that crossed lines, he leaked a sex tape of Lastonia Leon, another of Ross' baby mamas, adding commentary clearly aimed to humiliate Ross. That stunt would later come back to bite 50 in 2015. A jury hit him with a $7 million judgment, $5 million initially plus $2 million punitive for the leak, which contributed to his bankruptcy. At the time though, the damage to Ross' rep was serious. Over the years, Ross has had his fair share of public feuds to 50 Cent, Nicki Minaj, you name it. On The View, Ross kept his response measured, player, but the scars from the 50 beef ran deep. Even as recently as 2025, he was still taking shots, offering 2x50's masters and even bringing up 50's late mother in his rants. The beef kept bubbling. In 2023, 50 clowned the sales numbers of Ross and Meek Mill's Too Good to Be True. Then again in 2024, during the whole Drake-Kendrick Lamar situation. But 50 Cent wasn't the only controversy Ross had to handle. There was also the whole name situation. How do you feel when people start calling themselves by your name? Ross explained it's a double-edged sword, flattering in one sense, disrespectful in another. He was in prison when he first heard about it, and it rubbed him the wrong way. Freeway Rick Ross, the actual 1980s LA drug kingpin, notorious for stacking millions during the crack epidemic, had taken issue. When he got out of prison in 2009, he filed a $10 million trademark lawsuit against the rapper. So yeah, those are the kinds of situations that make you step back and think, what's really going on here? Why can't this just be handled straight? Honest, you know what I am and what I do. And then there's the way he raps, talking about selling drugs when he never actually sold any. He was a correctional officer, had a credit card in high school, living life completely different from the persona he raps about. By 2014. The California Court of Appeal ruled in favor of the rapper, allowing him to keep the name under First Amendment protections for artistic expression. Ross even countersued and won $10 million in damages. But as of early 2025, Freeway Rick Ross reignited the beef publicly, claiming he was the real Ross. The legal drama didn't stop there. Over the years, Ross faced multiple cases, gun and weed charges in 2008, weed possession in Louisiana in 2011, a marijuana warrant in North Carolina in 2014, and the most serious kidnapping and assault charges in Georgia in 2015, which ended with a no-contest plea to aggravated assault in 2017. Then came the personal losses that cut deep. In November 2025, Ross lost his day one manager Nedrian Blackbo James at age 45 to atherosclerotic cardiovascular disease. Blackbo was found unresponsive at Ross' crib after a night out, and Ross was right there, knowing something was wrong. He later posted an emotional tribute online, showing just how deep that loss hit. The man who had survived his own near-death experiences had to watch one of his closest people taken by heart disease. The irony wasn't lost on anyone following Ross' journey. Real talk, this is the tragic side most people don't see. The beefs that drain you mentally, the violence that keeps you on edge, the legal battles that never end, losing people you genuinely care about. And yet, through all of that noise, Rick Ross refused to stay down. The boss mentality wouldn't let him. The comeback of a boss. Here's what sets Ross apart from others who face similar situations. He's not just surviving, he's thriving. Why accumulate everything you could imagine just to drop dead or have a stroke? Nah, that's not him. He's living, enjoying life. Still hitting that 10-piece lemon pepper, fried corn, a little cheese on the fries, still doing him. By 2025. Ross had shed 75 to 100 pounds through consistent diet and staying active. The man who once weighed 350 pounds transformed himself, not through some quick fix gimmick or surgery, but through sheer discipline and a genuine desire to live. Feel me. This is Men's Health Month, and Ross has openly talked about taking control of his health, and he's proving it with results.